I'll just cover the data science process because that is an important part of today's session. What is data science? I think at this point of time you have some clarity on what is data science. Data science helps the companies to solve problems. It can help governments or research organizations or companies or individuals like you and me to solve problems. And the main crux here is that we are using data. We are using data to solve these problems. And there are specific tools like Python, SQL, Excel for solving these problems, or even machine learning is a tool for solving these problems, right? Uh, you know, data science exists even without machine learning because there are other tools, there are other ways by which you can solve these problems. So we are solving some problems of companies using data, and we are using some tools. And what do we do after we have solved the problem? We are telling some stories to our senior management, to the CEO of the company, to the leadership team, right? Or our managers, say for that matter, right? So we are telling stories. We are communicating our insights to them. What have we learned from the data? We are communicating that to them. And how do they use these insights? They use this to formulate strategies. They use this to take some crucial decisions, some decisions which are important for the company, right? Say, for example, that Google example, right? That Google is trying to enter Africa. Google is expanding into Africa. Or Google Cloud is expanding into Africa. This is a problem statement that was very recent. I know for a fact that Google set up some data centers in Africa recently. So that is there. Recently, I mean, about some years back. So these are problems which you can solve through data science. And this is an extremely important question, even from an interview point of view. And you need to know this in general as well, because this is like anyone can ask you what is data mining, and all these are separate job roles as well. You'll find people who are doing data modeling all day, and you'll find people who are spending all of their day on all their week, all their months on data mining, collection, and cleaning. So you need to understand. So for the first part, data mining and collection is simply when you are collecting data from websites or social media sites or anywhere from databases. You are collecting the data. You are extracting that data into a database, into a table basically, right? In a structured or an unstructured format. Now, a structured format might look like an Excel sheet. It's a very structured format. But an unstructured format might look like comma separated values, single sentences without any tab breaks or without any other breaks. Sentences which include a lot of data. So that is unstructured data. This is data mining and collection. And one way to do this is web scraping. Web scraping essentially means that you are scraping data from some website, from Twitter, say for example, right? You are scraping data from that. Suppose you want to get all the tweets made by Elon Musk in the past 2 years. Suppose you are running some analysis and you just want to check this, right? At that point of time, you would do some web scraping, which means that you would collect all the data of those tweets. When was it posted? What is the length of the tweet, right? Um, what was the content of the tweet? What are the keywords in the tweet, right? All of those things. So these are parameters that you would want to collect. And you can do this through data mining and collection. The second thing is cleaning, data cleaning. I am very sure you would be familiar with data cleaning. This is a very basic thing which you would have done at some point. You just delete the rows or columns which are not useful, or you just delete that part of the data which is not very useful to you, right? Now, data pre-processing is a bit more advanced, which means that you might need to combine some rows to give to build a row which is more to build a column which is more useful or which is more helpful for your analysis. So suppose I have the data of the marks of your marks for the past 3 or 4 semesters, and I just want to find the average marks. So what I'll do is I'll take the average of all those 4 columns, and I'll create a new column, and I'll find out the average. I'll calculate the average in the new column. Once I have that column, I don't need the previous marks, right? I just need the averages. So I'll delete the other 4 columns and I'll just keep the newer column, the average column. I think I can explain that using a table thing. So suppose we have 4 columns, right? We have 4 columns. Uh, the first one being the marks of the first semester, second one being the marks of in your marks in second semester and third semester and so on. Now I don't need all of this data. I just need one column which is the average marks of all the students. So I'll combine the previous 4 columns. All these 4 columns I'll combine, and I'll just find out the average in this new column, right? That is essentially data pre-processing. What I'll do is I'll delete the other 4 columns and I'll just keep the new column. I don't need the other columns. That is something that is also called data manipulation. Data pre-processing is a huge field, and data manipulation is a part of that. So just need to understand that. I'm sure this will be new for a lot of you, and you would be able to relate. Okay. Next would be data exploration and visualization. So if you see the right side of the screen, right, I am talking about I'm talking about arranging data in a structured format, which means that if I present data visually, the people who are seeing the presentation will be able to relate more. They will be able to understand the data in a better format. So if I need to explain the data beautifully. I need to explain the trends or the patterns in the data beautifully. So suppose the weather for the past few days the temperature has been decreasing. So if I create a simple line chart out of this, it will be very useful for the people who are looking at the data. And that's essentially data exploration and visualization. Exploration is more around exploring what parameters are there in the data, which ones you want to keep. So that Elon Musk tweet example, right? In that example, you might not want the date when Elon Musk posted the tweet. Might just want the content of the tweet and might just want the length of the tweet. So you might delete the other column, or you might not want that column, and you might want to explore how many rows are there in the entire data set, how many columns are there, what all parameters are there. So that is exploration. And then visualization is essentially creating this house on the right side, right? You are creating a beautiful house and are explaining that. Now, after this comes the more technical part. This is where machine learning also starts getting involved, right? Data transformation is when you are transforming uh, the data, which means that you would use some advanced algorithms like principal component analysis. All these algorithms are used for transforming the data. I'll not go into the details of these models as of now. And then we are talking about data modeling. Again, we are building some machine learning models for either prediction or classification, or any other use case. And then finally, once we have all of these things, we derive insights from from the data, and we communicate those insights to the senior people in the team, or the managers, or our professors, anyone. So that is the sense, and this is also beautifully captured through this picture. So first people collect the data, then they clean it, then they do the exploratory data analysis. EDA is exploratory data analysis. They are analyzing the data, and in the process are also exploring what all fields are there, what are the parameters, what is the size of the data set, all of these things. And finally, the model part, model building and deployment. Um, Before I move on to this part, Let me just take on some questions in the chat box. Okay. Um, Placement sessions. I think you're talking about the access to the classroom. Will that be with you till your placement season? I'm not sure about this. I think we cannot predict 7 or 8 months down the line. But yes, I think we can do something which can help you there. Maybe I would recommend you to take notes in these sessions so that basically after 1 year also you have that, you all have all of that with you. Um, More scope, AI, ML or CP or web dev, app dev. See, these are completely different fields, and these are everyone. There's a lot of scope in all of these fields. We cannot like there's no absolute count for checking this, and I'm also not very I'm not an expert in CP and web dev and app dev, so should not comment on this. I think I'll not be the best person to comment here. Okay, so I was talking about this process, right? Data engineers come in the very early part of this process, right? And data analysts come in, once we've started, once we have the data with us. They usually get the data from the data engineers, and then they do some exploratory data analysis, visualize the data, identify the trends and patterns. That is what they do. And finally, when we are talking about the model building part, that is uh, that is where machine learning engineers come into picture. And this is not very rigid. Data analysts might do collection also, or I think I've seen some data analysts also building models. And I've seen machine learning engineers, spending most of their time in cleaning the data, like myself. So I did an internship at a Silicon Valley startup some time back, and we were just cleaning the data most of the time. And that is true, and I got to know that that is true in all the industry, top companies of the industry, right? So cleaning the data is also an important part, cleaning and exploring the data. And machine learning engineers do spend a considerable amount of time there as well, even AI engineers. So that is there. And then data scientist is a broad field. Again, it is a superset of some of these fields. And this is a repetition of the same thing. We obtain the data, scrub the data, which means we are cleaning the data to, just get a very precise amount of data. And then we are exploring it, modeling it, and interpreting the data. That is the data science process. I think it is 10:30 already. Would just take 2 more minutes of yours. This is not an idle thing that I'm doing, but believe me that this is an important slide that you need to that we need to cover. So there are various types of interview questions. First one being technical, second one being general, the third one being based on your past experience. This includes internships, projects, all of that. Then we have brain teasers and guesstimates. Okay, so within technical, we have stats, data science, machine learning, and SQL, and of course, a lot of other things. And this slide, I think you can, I'll share the slides with you, but you can click a screenshot. This slides beautifully gives you some idea of what are the kinds of interview questions that can be asked. So say, for example, if you're talking about statistics, you might be asked what is the difference between population and sample, right? What is the difference between population and sample in data? And what is sampling? What are its methods? What is type 1 and type 2 error? Then we have machine learning and data science questions. How to decrease underfitting, overfitting? What is F1 score? Data analysis questions, which would include Excel questions as well. Then we have general questions like where do you see yourself in 5 years? Tell us a project where the stakeholders couldn't reach the answer they needed due to some data limitations. And I've been through such a situation in one of my internships. So this is, these are very genuine questions. And then SQL is again an important topic that you can be quizzed on. What is the difference between the where and having clause in SQL? What is a primary key and a foreign key? So that is there. There are a lot of we will cover this in a lot more detail as we move forward. Okay, so I'll just give a sneak peek of the next session. We'll cover Python, and I'll tell you how Google, Quora, Facebook, Netflix, Instagram, all these companies are using Python, right? I'll tell you the exact usage. How does Google use Python? How does Netflix use Python? I'll tell you the exact usage of each of these. Then I'll also touch upon OOP languages. This is an important concept in programming also. And when we are talking about Python, we would cover some of these things as well. Then we'll touch upon Python libraries, then data frames. I'll also cover interview questions. So there's a lot coming up, and I'm very sure that you are excited and you will, do the entire course very diligently, right? We'll cover, okay. Also, one homework for you guys is just read about what is Python, what is SQL, what is Excel. Just try to understand what are these tools, what are these used for, right? So that you get into that mindset. So just explore these things and also explore these career opportunities, right? Once I share this PDF, go through this chart. This chart is not for presenting in this session. It's just for your own reference as at some later time. No, you can spend some time on that. Okay, with this, I end the session. Everyone, thanks a lot